Good evening, everybody, and this is definitely evening. It's 12,
Yeah, it's
12:15.
actually morning over
Yeah,
here.
technically morning. Yeah, so good morning to you, everybody. This is Hunter here. I'm here with one of the studs I do this podcast with, Scott. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, thanks, Hunter.
Oh, good, good. I am happy to hear that, sir. So we are here to knock a couple reviews out for you guys. This this week coming up, this weekend, pardon me. There's really not shit coming out. I was kind of looking at the schedule. It's like, there's we'll do a review or two. Uh, we'll talk about Star Wars a little bit, which we didn't really do, if memory serves correctly. But um, so
You
we're
know, I think we did.
Oh, that's right, we did. So we will definitely have a broadcast this weekend. Because we haven't really done a broadcast in a while, but we will do one of those for sure. So, we got some stuff coming up for you guys this weekend, but we're gonna just crank through some reviews here. So the first one we're going to talk about is Burnt, which is with uh, Brad Coops, Bradley and Bradley Cooper, and I'm gonna tell you, Scott. So you saw this first. I was gonna go see it, and I was kind of like, whatever, it's fine. And then I went and saw it yesterday because I saw three movies yesterday, which we're all gonna review. And so, since you saw this first, what did you think going into it? Like, what were your expectations?
um, Expectations probably um low. I did see reviews for it, um, so I know that it wasn't like necessarily critically acclaimed. Um, so not just kind of ready to let it take me where it wanted to, if you will. Just you know, kind of neutral, to be honest with you. I like I'm a big Bradley Cooper fan, but sometimes these chef movies can be like that are very specific to like a craft. These certain movies that focus on that kind of like um, what
Chef,
am I thinking of with
chef.
well yeah, chef, but just other movies that just are specifically one genre or one skill, I guess I should say. So yeah, that was my initial feeling.
Well, I'll say going in this, I didn't have any expectations, but I'll just say right now, um, man, what a piece of fucking shit! I hated this. Like, you know what? I was gonna kind of lean into it, and you know what? Fuck it, I hated this movie. I'm just gonna say right now, I was sitting there the whole time. There were three other people in the theater, by the way, with me, and I'm just gonna say right now. So I'm just gonna jump in real quick and do a synopsis of this because we really don't even need to spend a whole lot of time on this, to be totally honest. So, Bradley Cooper plays Adam, is the character's name, and he is just he's an asshole. Like he's a horribly big asshole, and you find out all these things that he did to fuck people over royally who liked him at least at some point. He gets kicked out of Paris for reasons that you find out about later, and he ends up in London. So he pretty much uses up Uma Thurman, who makes a really weird fucking cameo, by the way. Like, she's in this for like 2 minutes and then she's gone. She plays this girl named Simone who like shuts down. Uh, I was never clear if she was like a health inspector or what she was. I think she was a health inspector, but she like shuts like restaurants down, and so he's like, "Hey, I want we're gonna take over this town again." So he gets her to go to this restaurant that's owned by what's his name, Daniel Bruhl, who plays Bruel, pardon me, I think is how you say it, who plays Tony, so that he'll hire him back. Even though Tony's like, yeah, you're an asshole, get the fuck away from my restaurant. And so he hires him back, and Bradley Cooper's Adam uh, basically works his way back into this restaurant where he's like a chef, where he wants to get his third star, hit the elusive third star, if you will. And really, all this movie is his journey to get the third star. So I'm gonna jump into the biggest problem I have with this movie right off the bat. Um, if you've taken seventh grade English, you're very aware of the concept of the hero's journey, where someone starts off like a douche or an asshole, or they're broken, something happens, they learn from it, they end up a better person. I never felt that this whole movie. I was sitting there the whole time like, he's an asshole. Things kind of just fall into his lap. It works out in the end, whatever. It felt like Archer, but except it's not playing it for laughs, because like they always make that joke in Archer where shit just happens to kind of fall into place for Archer. That was this in real life. Well, real life, whatever. It, but I never was charmed by Adam. I never felt bad for him. I was just sitting there the whole time like, wow, you're a douche. And there's this point where it looks like he might kill himself, and I was like, do it. I was like, there would be no part of me. Dude, I no, you can say damn all you want. The way he treats people in this fucking movie, there was no part of me that was like that would have felt bad, because as far as I'm concerned, people like that are gumming up the works. I was like, you know what? Like, if you, because he's just causing pain and misery, no
Right,
matter
but I
what.
mean, I don't think I would say that for you to feel that way, Bradley Cooper would have to be selling it to you, right?
Yeah, he's. I mean, okay. I mean, in that sense, yeah, I'll give you that. Like, he made me hate him, but it's the job of the script in a way to redeem him, and where the script goes as far as his journey, especially his love interest. Like, oh my god,
Yeah,
it,
that was the very annoying part of this
like
movie.
who's played by Sienna Miller, who I really actually like. She plays Helen, and I'm gonna tell you right now, there's this part where he grabs her like in this really intense moment where he's freaking the fuck out, like Gordon Ramsay, who by the way is a producer on this, and I was like, oh, that's very telling. I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Where he grabs her, I was like, oh, I didn't know Greg Hardy was in this movie. It's like, fuck this dude. Like, there was no part of me that I'll just say the ending that it gets, I never felt like it earned. There's no part of me that was like, oh man, he went through all this shit and he's a better person for it. I was like, no, you're a douche and shit kind of happens for you, and I just really want you to go away and never ever come back. But I've ranted enough. Scott, what did you think about this?
Yeah, I just, just to speak quick on your biggest gripe with the movie, that he's kind of like an asshole, and I would agree with you, and I do. He's not likable, absolutely. But I've worked in in a restaurant and in food settings, and this, I feel like it's pretty common for chefs to have that like very gravelly demeanor, like very harsh, critical. If you're an extremely talented, like a 3 Michelin star chef, you have to be. There's this attitude about you and things like that, and everybody has their egos and stuff like that. So I did kind of buy that, but I like I said, I think that Bradley Cooper did a good job of making me want to hate him so much, and I I see where you're coming from with the script as well, but that's not to say I like the movie. The relationships was just boring and predicting. The entire movie was very predictable for the most part, except for the twist they threw in there. I didn't see that coming, and I will say that I did like that, the twist they throw in there. But you know,
Wait,
it
wait.
was just I like Bradley Cooper, I will say that, but it just wasn't. I don't know, like it didn't really care for it. It was kind of very blah to me.
Okay, look, so this is what I'll say. And I was sitting there like, I'm not gonna compare it to Chef. I'm not gonna compare it to Chef, but
Right.
but John Favreau's character in Chef, he's an asshole. He's a definite asshole. But you see him like, especially towards his kid.
Okay.
But you see him as the movie goes on, like, look, and he kind of like goes like, look, man, like I'm sorry I've been a dick, but this is something I'm passionate about, and I think you could be passionate about it too. Like he has that talk where you're like, okay, like he's a dick, but it's more misguided than anything. Like there's a soul in there. I never felt that with Bradley Cooper. There's this point where Adam breaks down, starts crying, and I was like, oh fuck you. I was like, I don't give a shit that you're crying. It's like, good, cry more, fuck you. And like I said, when he puts his hands on Sienna Miller, there is no repercussions for that at all. Like she quits. Tony like follows her like a day later. It's like, hey, look, we'll like triple your salary, and she's like, well, you already double it. He's like, oh, well then we'll triple your double, and she just comes back to work, and Bradley Cooper's just like, oh, are we good? I was like, what the fuck, seriously? Like that's all you have to say? And she's like,
Yeah, that was huge.
and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
I
oh fuck you, movie, and like there's never a point where and so when she falls for him, which I'm just like, oh god damn, really? It
Well, that's something.
uh,
That was the whole. That's part of the predictability of it. Like you could see that coming from a mile
well,
away.
I mean, you could see it coming, but man, was it lazy? Like, I mean, like I was sitting there, I was like,
He didn't really have to try at
but
all. It was like, oh, you're just this amazing chef. Thank you.
okay, so I'm gonna put and I'm gonna compare this to a Marvel thing, and I know everyone's like, oh, not again, but hear me out. Like, so you look at someone like Stark, like he's a total asshole, he's a total prick, but he's charming, like he's charismatic. Like you could get why a woman would be like, oh man, like I will totally let you be my mistake for a night. This guy is arrogant as shit. He can barely talk to people. He even says, or his therapist, played by Emma Thompson, who actually did a good job. She was like, "Look, you have this like lone wolf mentality, and it's gonna get you like killed pretty much." And he's like, "Oh well, it's cool you think that." It's like, god damn, like people are like giving you like good advice, and you're just shoving it aside, and yet people are like, "Oh man, you're the best chef I've ever seen. Like, we need you." I'm like, don't build this dude's fucking ego. Not like like it can practically fill whatever fucking room he's in, and yet people are just like, "Oh man, we need you," and "Oh man, I've fallen for you." And by the way, Tony, the restaurant owner, I saw that shit coming a mile away. When you find out that he's in love with him, I was like, yeah, no shit. Like you would only put up with shit like this from someone if you were in love with them. And
That was an unnecessary twist,
oh no,
but
it was very unnecessary, but I still was like, yep, there it is. I'm like, not surprised. Um, and then Sienna Miller, man, okay, I got two hard laughs out of this. He has this black friend named Michelle, and without spoiling anything, something happens between him and Michelle, pardon me, in the kitchen towards the end of the movie, and I stood up and gave a standing ovation. I was like, good for you, brother, man. God, good. But then they negate what happened like 5 minutes later. I'm like, oh, whatever. So there is that, and then when Helen, I believe, um, Sienna Miller's character, her daughter has a birthday. She's like, hey, look, like my daughter's turning, I can't remember, like 7 or 8, whatever. I would like to get, the last part of my shift off. And he's like, oh, well, that's the bad thing about becoming good, about becoming great. You're irreplaceable. I need you here. I'm like, oh, wow, fuck you. And so the restaurant owner's like, hey, make a birthday cake. And he's like, I don't make cake. And I was like, oh wow, he's paying you. You make whatever fucking wants you to make. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's her daughter's birthday. You're making a fucking cake.
although he does the I will disagree with you. He does show a little bit of the human side with the daughter. So there is a little bit there.
You know what though? You say that, but man, when he delivered that cake, it was like when I used to work at like UPS. It was like, oh, here's your package. Like, I mean, there was
Oh
no,
my
like, there
god.
was no smile. There was no. He was like, it was like, dude, it was like in Pan when kids were being forced to walk the plank. Like he just had this look on his face, like I don't want to do this. Why am I here? And the only part of that scene that salvaged it a little bit is when the girl tries it and she's like, I've had better. I'm like, you know what? This is what more people need to be doing. More people need to be putting his ass in check because everyone is just like falling at this guy's feet and moving heaven and earth to accommodate him when he's fucked all these people over. So okay, I will say this. Daniel Bruel. I'm saying your name wrong, dude. I'm fucking sorry because you're good in this. He plays Tony, the restaurant owner. He was good in this. I want to say it's Sienna Miller. God, I'm just fucking up names tonight. think it's uh, I think it's Sienna Miller. She's good in this. Um, and then actually the little girl, she's not in it a whole lot, but she was good in this. I mean, there are parts where I was like, all right, I can. Sienna Miller, yeah. Um, Helen, she was good in this, but goddamn, like I was really sitting there watching this, like this is an hour and 40 minutes, and it felt like 2 hours. I'm like, this is just fucking dragging. And before I let you go back here, there's this whole thing where it's like, hey, we have family dinner, like, like family meal time or whatever, like after the restaurant's closed or whatever. And, Bradley Cooper, he's that lone wolf, so he won't join in. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, so the movie's gonna end with him jumping in line for everyone, which is, again, it doesn't feel like organic at all. It felt very, like, forced by the script. Um, and I'm just sitting there like, I don't buy any of this. I don't buy his transformation. I don't buy him falling in love with Sienna Miller at all. I don't buy the fact that someone wouldn't have beat this dude within an inch of his life at some point before this movie even fucking started. I don't buy any of this. And I'm really sitting there and like, I love Bradley Cooper. I mean, uh, that raccoon he plays, I mean, he's gonna go places, but fuck, this movie really asks you to suspend your disbelief quite a bit. And I was sitting there, I was like, I'm sorry, like, this script isn't good enough for me to do so. The characters aren't written well enough for me to do so. And, the last thing I'll say is in Chef, when you're watching Chef, you watch, you see the food that's being cooked, and it just looks mouthwatering. I was like, God damn, I need to eat right now. Like, it just looks so good. I was sitting there watching the food in this. I'm like, man, that looks like it's about $100 a plate. And there's no part of me that'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Like, I'll drop $100 for these really small portions of shit. It's like, I don't buy it. I tried, man, but I couldn't get into it. Go ahead, man. Sorry.
I feel like you have more of a problem with like the character that they're portraying than the movie. I feel like I don't really know how to describe it. It seems like the the actual character of the movie, like just because the character is like I thought that there was a bit of a human side to it with the kid. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you that
Well, you're
it,
wrong, mother. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Hunter, this is supposed to be a civil discussion.
What? I'm acting like Bradley Cooper. You don't like it when I do this? I'm sorry.
I
Go
I did kind of I sort of understood where the whole anger thing was coming from. Yes, he was a dick, but I think he's a dick because they wanted him to be a dick, and I think that there was cheesy parts, the whole him going into the family dinner at the end that was really stupid, and really predictable. Like I was saying, like they just besides for me being predictable and the bad relationships, I would say. Um, I don't know. I didn't hate it as much as you did. I thought Bradley Cooper sold what he was given. I thought the cinematography was actually decent, and just kind of the way that they moved around the kitchen. But the plot itself just wasn't there, and it just didn't come together. And there was the parts weren't all there, and it was pretty easy to see that. And I can understand that you where you're coming from, I guess, but I feel like you have maybe more of a problem with how of the actual character, not necessarily like the actor or just because that I guess you could say that it was not believable. You weren't buying it, so I get that. I get that portion, but yeah, it was a. Do you want me to give it a grade or what?
Yeah, please do.
I think I would probably. You're gonna think this is too high, but I gotta go with like a C. Um,
Okay.
and it's kind of funny
I'm
what
sorry. I'm like trying not to laugh.
it's kind of funny what Colin said about that though. Is like giving something like a C minus or like a C is really just is says just as much as you giving it a D or an F. So take it for what you will. But I wouldn't recommend this to anybody.
Colin, we miss you, bud. We hope you had a good day. So, if you want to watch a movie about food, watch Julie and Julia. Watch Ratatouille. That's it. Watch fucking Soul Food. Watch Chef. Watch Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Watch the last 10 minutes of fucking Mouse Hunt. Like, god damn it, this movie's dumb.
Mouse.
And I'm sorry, I was sitting there the whole time, and I don't give a shit. This movie sucked, and I was sitting there the whole time trying to find something to grasp onto. You can't grasp onto the restaurant owner Tony, even though he's so handsome. You can't grasp onto him. Thought you'd like that. You can't grasp on him. You can't grasp on this Sienna Miller because she falls for his douche. You can't fall. You can't grab onto Bradley Cooper's Adam because he's an asshole the whole goddamn time. And there is not one fucking point where he says thank you to anyone in the fucking movie. And I could not believe that he was so shitty and that people were taking care and helping this motherfucker.
But
Like,
don't you think that? But don't you think that that's what they wanted though? Then don't you? But don't you think that that is what they intended him to be like?
you know what?
You know what I mean?
To be totally honest, I don't give a shit what they want in that sense because I'm gonna tell you this, and say what you will, like the one thing I will give this movie, or one of the few things I'll give this movie, is that um, the people in like in the kitchen, they were working their asses off for him. Like you see all the prep they're doing, I was like, oh my god, like it is quick paced, like a motherfucker in there, and I was like, the I don't even want to say pageantry, but the I would just say the execution, I guess I appreciated, like in the cinematography with how they showed, everything being whipped
Yeah,
and like
each plate being
yeah,
prepared. Yeah.
yeah, like that I really did appreciate. But man, this character is just, like in the scene where he flips out, and he's like, and after of course he grabs Sienna Miller, and Michelle like tries to talk to him. He's like, I'm not fucking talking to you. And he like throws another plate. I was like, oh man, I would have beat the shit out of him. There's no goddamn way. Like, if I'm that big and black, like, and buff like that dude, I would have grabbed the plate and just smacked him in the head with it. Like, oh man, this movie, I was sitting there the whole movie, and I just felt my face getting redder and redder, and I'm just like, god damn movie, you are just trying to piss me off. So, you know what? I'm gonna give this a D, and the only reason I'm gonna give it a D and not to go fuck yourself, and I cannot stress this enough, like, I want you to hear me. The only reason I'm not giving this a go fuck yourself is because I thought Sienna Miller, God bless her, she did a hell of a job, and she really did. She was great, and then Emma Thompson was great, and then what's his name? Danny Burrell was really good. Bradley Cooper was good, and I wouldn't say forgive this, but I'll give this movie more points if I felt that by the end he had learned shit. But it really felt like he hadn't learned shit. It was like, oh, well, cool, like third star, yeah. And it's just kind of like, all right, well, he keeps on his bullshit, bogus journey, and probably
Do you feel like for you to enjoy a movie, somebody has to like learn something in general?
not all the time, but I think he was. I think one thing, the part that really just got to me is that everyone was moving heaven and earth to 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 uh to
Right.
help this dude. I think that was the part that really just really got to me. There's this point where just spoiler if you want to call it that. Like, we're fucking saving you money, so whatever. But he's in debt to some mobsters, which, like, oldest, like, cliche city here, but like he owes them a bunch of money for drugs, and his ex fling girlfriend, they never really said what the fuck she was, which was another thing. I'm like, all right. But she just pays off his debt like randomly, like at the point where it's like, oh, his life is kind of in peril. She just kind of wakes up, it's like, oh yeah, I have money, and it's just kind of like, oh my god. And she of course has a trip to go on she's never seen again. It's just like, man, movie, you're stacking cliche on top of cliche. Like, you can't fucking help yourself. So I I I
Oh, I'm sorry. Brule. Is that Daniel Brule?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, who is that guy you're talking about? Sorry, I'm sorry to
No, no,
interrupt
no, you're all
you.
good. But yeah, this movie, man, D. I mean, D, and like I said, the only reason it won't get a go fuck yourself is because I thought some of the performances were really good. Um, if I felt like he just learned a little something, like even Archer learned something on occasion, but this movie it really felt like he was like, oh well, cool, everything like happened to fall into place, yay me. So
So there's no closure for you with him.
there's no yeah, that's a good way to put it. I just didn't
Okay.
I didn't feel like there's enough closure. I would have liked a little more. So yeah, so you know, burnt, burnt. I felt burnt on this. I paid $9.40 for this, and this was not
You need
worth
some Bengay because you got burned
it.
on this one.
Yeah, need need some fucking dry ice for that
Aloe
burn.
vera.
Yeah, yeah, need some cocoa butter for that shit. But but guys, did you see Burnt? Let us know what you thought of it. Follow me on the Twitter at jhunterrealpineapple. You can also follow me on Instagram now. You're welcome at HunterBear805, and follow Scott on Twitter at,
Newman the first.
and like us on Facebook at The Real Pineapple, and follow us here on SoundCloud at The Real Pineapple 775. Definitely let us know what you thought of this review and what else you'd like us to review. We are always looking for random ass suggestions on shit to keep recording for you guys. Thank you so much. You guys have a good night.
Peace.